Hey, old man, if you can start my Ferrari, it's yours. The words hit the room like a slap. People turned, laughed, lifted their phones. The red Ferrari sat in the center of the gala floor under the white lights of the Langford Convention Center. Ethan Ward stood beside it, glass of whiskey in one hand, microphone in the other. His black tuxedo fit like it had been stitched on it arrogance itself. He looked at the man standing a few feet away, gray beard, torn jacket, shoes half gone. "Yeah," Ethan said louder, pointing. "You've been staring at my car for 10 minutes. You hungry or just lost?" A few people laughed too hard. The old man didn't move. His hands were in his pockets, his shoulders straight. Lauren Mitchell, standing near the buffet table, felt the air shift. She hated this kind of scene, rich people turning cruelty into entertainment. The security guard stepped forward. "Sir, you need to leave." But Ethan stopped him with a grin. "No, wait. Let him answer." He looked back at the crowd. "Come on, it's a party. Let's make it interesting. If this guy can start my Ferrari, I'll give it to him. Right here. Tonight." Laughter exploded. Someone shouted, "Give him a shot, Ethan." The old man lifted his eyes slowly. "You mean that?" The room went quiet for a beat, the kind of quiet that feels wrong after too much noise. Ethan smiled wider. "Sure. Why not? You look like you could use a break." The old man nodded once. "I accept." The laughter came again, sharper this time, mixed with disbelief. People started filming. The sound of glasses clinking died out as everyone moved closer to see. Lauren crossed her arms. "You're really doing this?" she said under her breath. Ethan heard her. "Relax. It's just a joke." But it wasn't funny anymore. The old man, Robert Hayes, walked toward the platform where the Ferrari rested. Each step echoed against the marble floor. He didn't rush. He didn't look scared. "Sir, don't touch the car," the guard warned. "It's fine," Ethan said. "Let's see what he's got." Robert stopped in front of the driver's side door. He looked at the car like a man looking at something he'd known long ago, but couldn't touch for years. His hands hovered above the handle, then dropped to his sides. "You sure about this?" he asked quietly. "Dead sure," Ethan replied. "Start it, and it's yours." The laughter came again, smaller, nervous. Robert's voice stayed calm. "Then let's make it fair. If I start it, you keep your word." Ethan raised his glass. "Absolutely. You've got my word." He tossed the keys. They clattered across the floor and landed near Robert's feet. The sound of metal on tile cut through the room like a pin drop. Robert bent down, picked them up carefully, and held them for a second. Then he looked up. "You shouldn't play with promises, son." Ethan smirked. "You shouldn't believe everything you hear, old man." Someone in the crowd whispered, "This is crazy." Another laughed. A man near the bar said, "He won't even find the ignition." Lauren stepped closer, watching the old man's face. There was something steady in his expression. No fear, no anger, just focus. Robert opened the door and sat down. The leather creaked. He set the key in place, his hands steady. The room fell silent. Ethan leaned on the hood, smirking at the cameras. "Go ahead. Impress us." Robert didn't look at him. He adjusted the seat, touched the steering wheel, pressed one button, then another. The small clicks sounded like a code only he understood. Then he turned the key. The engine came alive with a roar so deep it shook the glasses on the nearest table. The laughter stopped. Every head turned toward the car. The red Ferrari rumbled, smooth and perfect. Ethan blinked. "What the?" Robert looked straight ahead, one hand on the wheel. "Feels like you've been running it too hard." The response is slow on the left cylinder. The words landed heavier than the engine noise. Lauren whispered, "He knows what he's doing." Robert turned the engine off and stepped out. He handed the keys to Ethan. "You said it was mine." Ethan hesitated. "That was a joke." Robert's eyes didn't move. "You gave your word." The crowd was silent. Some started recording again. Others looked at Ethan, waiting for him to speak. He forced a laugh. "Relax, everyone. He just got lucky." Robert folded his hands. "Luck doesn't make an engine purr like that. Experience does." Lauren's voice broke the silence. "Who are you?" Robert looked at her. "Someone who remembers what others forgot." The security guard shifted uncomfortably. The audience began whispering. Ethan tried to wave it off, but no one was laughing anymore. Robert started walking away from the car, his voice low but clear. You wanted to humiliate me. Now you just humiliated yourself. Ethan clenched his jaw, his face tightening under the lights. You think this means something? Robert stopped. Yes. It means I'm not the fool in this room. No one spoke. The camera stayed up, recording every second. Lauren took a step forward, watching Ethan. You might want to stop now, she said. You've already lost the crowd. Ethan said nothing. Robert looked around once more, at the car, the people, the silence that used to be laughter, and then turned toward the exit. But before he left, he said one last thing. Be careful, son. Some engines remember their builders better than their owners. Then he walked out. The applause didn't come right away. It started slow, from one corner of the room, then another, until it filled the hall. Ethan didn't look up. The Ferrari kept cooling down in the background, the ticking of its engine the only sound left. The hall didn't recover right away. People stood frozen, phones still in their hands, waiting for someone to say it was part of the show. Ethan stayed beside the car, staring at the keys in his palm. He looked around, trying to read the crowd, but nobody was smiling anymore. Lauren watched him from the side. You gonna say something? She asked. Ethan forced a laugh that came out flat. Sure. Congrats to the old man. Must have guessed the right button. No one laughed with him. At the far end of the room, two security guards spoke quietly, unsure if they should escort Robert Hayes out or let him be. He was just standing near the exit, calm, quiet, as if the whole thing hadn't touched him at all. A man in a gray suit whispered. That guy knew what he was doing. Did you see how he adjusted the gear before starting it? Another nodded. He didn't guess. That was muscle memory. Lauren overheard them. She walked toward Robert, stopping a few feet away. You really knew that car, she said. Robert glanced at her. I built that engine 30 years ago. Different badge, same machine. Lauren frowned. You work for Ferrari? He didn't answer. Just looked back at Ethan, who was pretending to check his phone, trying to ignore the stares. Someone called out. Come on, Ward. You're not going to back out on your promise, are you? Ethan turned sharply. It was a joke. The voice came back. Didn't sound like one. The tension returned fast. The same people who had laughed minutes earlier were now waiting for blood. Ethan walked toward Robert. Let's get something straight, he said low enough for only a few to hear. You embarrassed me in front of everyone. Congratulations. Now get the hell out before I change my mind. Robert didn't move. It's not your mind you should be worried about. It's your mouth. Words stick. Ethan clenched his jaw. You threatening me? No. I'm reminding you. Lauren stepped between them. That's enough. You've made your point, both of you. But Ethan wasn't done. Who even let you in here? You don't belong at an event like this. Robert looked at him evenly. You think money decides where people belong. That's your problem. The silence spread again. Everyone around could hear them now. Ethan smirked. You know what your problem is? You think you're some kind of hero because you started a car. Robert didn't blink. No, I'm someone who still knows how to listen to one. Lauren said quietly, he's right. You can't fake that. Ethan ignored her. He turned toward the guests. All right, show's over. Go back to your drinks. But no one moved. The air felt heavier, waiting for what came next. Robert reached into his coat pocket and took out a folded photograph. Edges torn, colors faded. He held it up to Ethan. See this? Ethan didn't take it. Robert unfolded it himself. That's me and your father. Detroit plant. 1992. The crowd murmured. Ethan's smirk faded. Lauren looked from one to the other. Your father worked with him? Robert nodded. Worked with, yes. Worked over eventually. Ethan's voice turned sharp. You're full of it. Robert tucked the photo back in his coat. You'll see. Ethan looked around again. Too many phones were still recording. He couldn't blow up without making tomorrow's headlines. He swallowed hard and forced another smile. All right, you've had your moment. Enjoy the applause. Then get out. Robert didn't respond. He walked back toward the Ferrari, opened the hood, and looked inside. His hands moved slow, deliberate. Hey, Ethan shouted. Don't touch my car. Robert ignored him. You're leaking pressure through the left manifold, he said, still examining the parts. You'll blow your injectors before you hit 10,000 miles. Someone whistled low. He's serious. Lauren leaned in. How can you tell? Robert pointed. Color on the piping. Slight discoloration. Means heat imbalance. Happens when the system's tuned by amateurs. Ethan took a step forward, angry. You calling my mechanics amateurs? Robert looked up. I'm saying they don't understand what they're copying. The line landed heavy. A few people actually clapped. Ethan's face went red. You think you can come here, insult me, and walk away? Robert straightened. I don't think it. I just did. He closed the hood carefully and set his hand flat on the metal for a second, like saying goodbye to something that once belonged to him. Then he stepped back. Lauren said quietly, You built engines like this? Robert nodded. Before people like him learned how to steal credit. Ethan snapped. That's it. Security. But one of the guards hesitated. Sir, maybe we should. I said get him out. Ethan shouted. Lauren turned to the guards. Don't touch him. Ethan glared at her. Stay out of this. No, she said calm but firm. You started this. He finished it. A woman near the stage spoke up. She's right. You offered him the car. You said it in front of everyone. More voices followed. Yeah, we heard it. You gave your word. Ethan froze. The situation was slipping completely. Robert looked at him one last time. Don't worry, son. I don't want your car. I want something you can't buy. Ethan frowned. What's that? My name back. The crowd went silent again. Lauren whispered. What does that mean? Robert didn't answer. He turned away and started walking toward the exit. As he reached the door, Ethan shouted after him. You think anyone believes your little story? Robert stopped, looked over his shoulder, and said quietly, I don't need them to believe it. I just need you to remember it. Then he left. No music, no applause this time. Only the sound of phones buzzing as notifications popped up, the video already spreading online. Lauren stood in the middle of the room, looking at the car, the broken expression on Ethan's face, and the doors that had just closed behind Robert Hayes. She whispered to herself, he's not done. Not by a long shot. By the next morning, the video had already passed 1 million views. Every news outlet from Los Angeles to New York was replaying the same 20 seconds. The part where Ethan Ward said he'd give away his Ferrari if an old man could start it. The clip ended with the roar of the engine and a look on Ethan's face when it came alive. In the Ward Motors headquarters, Ethan sat behind his glass desk, staring at his phone. The comments were brutal. Rich boy humbled. Engine built him, not the other way around. Ward family exposed. Each post felt like another crack in the image he had spent years building. His assistant, Ryan, stood near the door, not sure what to say. It's everywhere, sir. They even played it on the morning show. They're calling it the Ferrari lesson. Ethan threw the phone onto the table. Delete everything related to it. I don't want a single post with my name attached to that old man. Ryan hesitated. That's not possible, sir. It's been mirrored and clipped hundreds of times. Even if we take down the original, people keep re-uploading it. Ethan rubbed his forehead. Then find him. Find out who that man is. I want him off the streets. No interviews, no cameras. Ryan swallowed. Already on it. But there's a problem. Reporters say his name is Robert Hayes. Apparently, he worked in Detroit years ago. There's a record of him at the old Ferrari plant, but everything stops after 1995. Ethan looked up sharply. Ferrari plant? My father had investments there. Yes, sir, Ryan said carefully. Some of the old staff remember a man named Hayes, a senior mechanic. One even said he was on the team that helped design the early prototypes. Ethan stood up. That's impossible. Ryan didn't respond. Ethan paced behind the desk. If this man used to work there, why is he homeless now? Why show up here? Why me? Ryan answered softly. Maybe it wasn't random. The office went quiet. Ethan stopped pacing. You think he planned this? Ryan chose his words slowly. I think he knew what he was doing. Ethan turned to the window, staring down at the Los Angeles skyline. Then he wants something. Nobody walks into a gala like that by accident. He turned back. Contact the PR team. We release a statement. Call it a misunderstanding. Say the old man was a mechanic we helped years ago. Make it sound like charity. Ryan nodded, but hesitated again. Sir, Laura Mitchell gave an interview this morning. Ethan froze. What did she say? Ryan opened his tablet. She said, and I quote, what I saw that night wasn't luck. It was knowledge. That man understood the machine better than anyone in the room. Ethan slammed his fist onto the table. She's finished. I'll make sure she never works in this industry again. Ryan looked uncomfortable. Sir, she's already trending too. People are calling her the only one who stood up for him. Ethan sat back down, face tightening. Then we control the narrative another way. Schedule a press event. I'll talk about innovation, respect, whatever it takes to move attention back. Meanwhile, across the city, Robert Hayes sat on a bench outside a small diner. The morning sun hit the cracked pavement, and the sound of traffic drowned out the chatter around him. He had a cup of black coffee and nothing else on the table. The waitress, a young woman named Carla, walked over. "You're that guy from the video, right? The Ferrari guy?" Robert gave a tired half-smile. "That's what they're calling me now." Carla poured more coffee into his cup. "People are saying you embarrassed some rich dude. Good for you." Robert didn't answer right away. "That wasn't my goal." She tilted her head. "Looked like justice to me." He shook his head. Justice would have come 30 years ago. The diner door opened. Lauren walked in, holding a small envelope. She spotted him and walked straight over. "I've been looking for you." Robert looked up, surprised. "How did you find me?" "You left before I could ask you anything. Reporters started looking, but I figured you'd stay close. You didn't seem like someone who runs." She sat down across from him. "You told me you built that engine." He nodded once. "Every line of it. I designed a fuel system that made it run smoother. Then they took the patent and my name with it." Lauren opened the envelope and slid a printed article across the table. "You might want to see this. It's from a 1996 issue of Automotive Weekly." He adjusted his glasses and read. There was a picture of a younger Ethan Ward standing next to his father, Martin Ward, during a plant visit. The headline read, "Ward Motors acquires Ferrari U.S. division. Announces new chief of design." Underneath the photo was a name, Robert Hayes, listed as former head mechanic, terminated due to restructuring. Robert's jaw tightened. Terminated. That's a nice word for being erased. Lauren watched him. "Why didn't you ever go public?" "I tried," he said quietly. "But no one listens when you're poor. And when you're old, they laugh." Lauren leaned forward. "They're listening now." He gave a small, humorless smile. "They're listening because it makes a good story." She shook her head. "Maybe, but people saw the truth. That matters." Before he could answer, a black SUV pulled up across the street. Two men in suits stepped out, scanning the diner. Robert noticed them immediately. "Looks like someone finally noticed me," he said, standing up. Lauren frowned. "Who are they?" "Ward's cleanup crew," Robert said flatly. "They'll want me quiet." Lauren's voice dropped. "You're not running again, are you?" He picked up his coat. "No, I'm done running." He turned to her. "If you really want to help, find the original blueprints from that plant. They were filed under my initials, RH92. That's all the proof anyone needs." Lauren stood too. "Where are they?" "In Detroit," he said, "buried under 30 years of dust and lies." The two men entered the diner, scanning the room. Robert slipped toward the back exit while Lauren blocked their line of sight, pretending to drop her purse. One of the men said, "Ma'am, have you seen an older man, gray coat, beard?" She straightened, expression blank. "You mean half the guys downtown?" They looked around, confused, then left to check outside. Robert was already gone. Lauren ran out the back door a minute later, but he had disappeared into the crowd. All that remained was the faint echo of engines from the street and the folded newspaper he'd left on the table, the article headline staring up at her. She picked it up and whispered, "Detroit." 3 days later, Lauren landed in Detroit. The sky was flat gray, the kind that made everything look like it hadn't changed in decades. The old Ferrari plant sat on the edge of the industrial district, half boarded up, half leased to smaller companies. The sign out front was faded, the red letters nearly gone. She walked up to the gate, holding a visitor pass she'd arranged through an old contact in city planning. The guard, a man in his 50s with a Detroit Tigers cap, looked at her credentials and said, "Nobody goes in there anymore. Place is practically a museum." "I just need access to the archives," she said. 10 minutes. He looked at her badge again, then shrugged. "Third floor, far end. But if you fall through the floor, don't sue the city." Inside, the air smelled of dust and oil. Rusted machines lined the corridor like ghosts from another era. She followed the signs toward records and storage, her phone flashlight cutting through the dim hallway. She found the door half open. Inside were dozens of boxes stacked on metal shelves. Everything was coated in years of grime. She started opening files one by one, searching for the initials RH92 like Robert had said. Hours passed. Her hands were black with dust. She found old memos, payroll sheets, engine drafts, but nothing with his initials. Then she opened a box marked Ferrari Ward Transition 1995. Inside was a folder labeled Prototype SF Series. The cover page had handwritten notes in the margins, cylinder ratio fixed. RH. Her pulse jumped. She turned the page. At the bottom corner, in fading ink, was the signature. Robert Hayes, Chief Mechanic, 1992. She took out her phone and snapped several pictures. As she did, a voice came from the door. "You shouldn't be here." Lauren turned fast. A man in a dark jacket stood there, holding a flashlight. He wasn't security, too well dressed for that. His tone was calm, but firm. "I'm with Ward Motors," he said. "You're trespassing on company property." She straightened. "This facility belongs to the city now. Public records." He stepped closer. "Not all of them." Lauren closed the folder and slipped it into her bag. "Then I guess I found the ones that matter." He looked at her bag. "You have no idea what you're walking into." "I know exactly what I'm walking into," she said. "A man lost everything because your company erased him." He smirked slightly. "Miss Mitchell, you're an engineer. You should understand. Nothing lasts forever. People get replaced." Lauren stared at him. "You think theft is replacement?" The man's voice dropped lower. "You're making a mistake. Ward has lawyers, money, reach. You won't win." She walked past him toward the door. Neither did he, but he didn't stop. As she stepped into the hallway, she dialed a number. Robert picked up after the third ring. "You found it?" he asked. "Yes. Your initials, your signature. Everything you said was there." There was silence on the line for a moment. "Then it's time." "Time for what?" she asked. "To make them face it," he said quietly. That night, Laura met Robert in a small motel off the highway. The place looked forgotten, one neon sign half lit, 2 cars in the lot. She knocked on the door, and he opened it immediately. His eyes looked tired but clear. "You shouldn't have come," he said. "You told me to," she replied, dropping the folder on the table. He sat down and opened it slowly. When he saw his own handwriting, his hands trembled. "I thought it was gone forever." "They kept everything," she said. "They just buried it." Robert flipped through the pages, tracing each line like he was touching a piece of his life. "This was my design. The one they stole to launch Ward Motors' first performance line. They made millions off it." Lauren sat across from him. "So what do we do now?" He looked up. "You mean, what do I do?" "No," she said firmly. "What do we do? You're not alone in this anymore." He studied her for a long second, then nodded. "Then we start by telling the truth." Lauren pulled out her laptop. "I can publish the documents anonymously first. Once it's out, they can't hide it." Robert leaned back. "They'll come after you. They already tried." He gave a small, tired smile. "You remind me of myself 30 years ago." She met his eyes. "Then let's make sure you get to be yourself again." They spent the next 2 hours scanning the files. Robert explained each note and diagram, detailing how he developed the system that made the engines more efficient. Lauren typed as he spoke, organizing every fact into a timeline that traced exactly how Ward Motors had profited from his design. When they finished, she looked at him. "Tomorrow morning, this goes live. You sure you're ready?" Robert nodded slowly. Ready doesn't matter anymore. It's the right thing. Outside, a car engine idled for a few seconds, then drove away. Neither of them noticed. The next morning, Lauren's article appeared online. "The Forgotten Engineer: How Robert Hayes Built the Heart of Ward Motors." Within hours, it was everywhere. The photos of the documents, his signature, the blueprints, all undeniable. Reporters swarmed Ward Motors headquarters demanding answers. In Los Angeles, Ethan stared at his phone again. The headline burned through him. Ryan rushed into the office, pale. "Sir, it's bad. The documents are verified. Journalists are calling it the biggest cover-up in the company's history." Ethan's voice was barely controlled. "Who leaked it?" Ryan hesitated. "Lauren Mitchell. And she has the old man with her." Ethan gritted his teeth. "Find them." Ryan lowered his voice. "Sir, this isn't going away. People are turning on us. Investors are asking questions about your father's involvement." Ethan slammed the desk. "Then we make a statement. Schedule a press conference." I'll deny everything. Ryan said quietly, it's not just online anymore. Hayes is on TV tonight. Live. Ethan froze. What? Ryan handed him a tablet. On the screen was a news teaser. The man behind the viral Ferrari video speaks out, tonight at 8. Ethan dropped the tablet on the desk. His reflection stared back at him from the glass wall, pale, tense, angry. He whispered, he's coming for me. By 8 o'clock that evening, every television network in the country was running the same headline. The forgotten engineer. Robert Hayes breaks his silence. Inside a modest studio in downtown Detroit, Robert sat in front of the camera, wearing a clean shirt Lauren had brought him that morning. The producer clipped the mic to his collar and counted down quietly. The red light blinked on. The anchor leaned forward. Mr. Hayes, millions of people saw the video of what happened in Los Angeles last week. Tonight, you've chosen to tell your story. Why now? Robert took a steady breath. Because I'm tired of being erased. 30 years ago, I worked at the Ferrari plant in Detroit. I designed part of the fuel system that later became the foundation for Ward Motors' first high-performance line. When the company bought the plant, they took everything, including my name. They said I was laid off due to restructuring, but what they really did was steal my work and silence me. The anchor nodded slowly. You have proof of that. Robert reached for the folder beside him and held up the copies Lauren had helped him scan. My signature, my notes, my initials on every page. And I have people who worked with me who remember. The producer switched the feed to a split screen, half showing Robert, half showing archived photographs of the old factory floor, blueprints, and a young Martin Ward shaking hands with Italian executives. Robert continued, his voice calm but heavy. I tried to fight it. I sent letters, I called offices, I begged them to review the paperwork. No one cared. They told me to move on, that men like me don't get credit. We just build and disappear. Across the country, Ethan watched from his penthouse living room. The TV's glow lit his face as the camera zoomed in on Robert's weathered expression. The phone rang, and he didn't answer. It rang again. Finally, he picked up. His father's voice came through sharp. What did you do? Ethan closed his eyes. He's lying. Martin Ward's tone turned cold. He's not. Those documents are real. We buried that years ago. I told you to stay out of the spotlight. You couldn't help yourself. Ethan clenched the phone. So it's true? You really did it. Martin didn't respond immediately. Then he said, you don't survive in this business by playing fair. Ethan stared at the screen, watching Robert continue speaking. You stole his life, he said quietly. Martin's voice hardened. I built this company. Don't ruin it trying to save your pride. Damage control starts now. Fly to Detroit. Offer a settlement, an apology, whatever it takes to shut him down. Ethan lowered the phone without replying. Back in the studio, the interview was ending. The anchor asked, if Ward Motors reached out to you today, what would you want? Robert looked directly into the camera. Not money. I want my name restored on every design I created. I want them to admit what they did publicly. And I want people to know that the value of a man's work doesn't vanish because someone richer takes the credit. The red light went off. The producer exhaled. That was perfect. Lauren walked up from behind the stage lights, holding her phone. It's already trending again, she said. They can't bury it this time. Robert nodded slowly. I never wanted revenge. I just wanted to be seen. Lauren smiled faintly. You are now. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, Ethan packed his briefcase and told Ryan, we're flying out tonight. Ryan hesitated. Sir, the board thinks you should wait. They're meeting tomorrow to discuss your position. Ethan turned sharply. My position? Ryan lowered his eyes. They're calling for an internal review. Investors are nervous. They might. Ethan cut him off. They're not taking my company. The next morning, Ethan arrived at a hotel in Detroit. Ward Motors had arranged a private meeting room. Reporters were outside the building waiting, but security kept them away. Inside, Robert and Lauren sat across the table, the same folder between them. Ethan walked in with his lawyer. The tension was thick enough to cut through. Robert spoke first. You didn't have to come. The truth's already out. Ethan set down his briefcase. You got your attention. Congratulations. Now let's make this simple. You want compensation? I'll write the number. Robert shook his head. I said I don't want your money. Ethan's lawyer started. Mr. Hayes, a financial agreement could. Robert interrupted. Save your company? No deal. Lauren leaned forward. He's not here for money. He's here for acknowledgement. Ethan looked at her. You think that's how the world works? You think one headline changes anything? Lauren answered steadily. It already did. People know what happened. Ethan's voice rose. People forget fast. Robert replied, maybe, but not all of them. And not me. Ethan sat back, silent for a moment. You really think anyone cares about an old blueprint? The world moves on. Robert looked him in the eye. Then why are you here? Ethan didn't answer. Lauren pushed the folder across the table. You can end this right now. Admit the truth. Publicly. It's the only decent thing left to do. Ethan opened the folder and stared at the documents. His name wasn't anywhere. Only Robert's. The initials RH92 appeared on every page like scars. He closed it again. I can't undo what my father did. Robert said quietly, you can stop pretending it never happened. Ethan's lawyer leaned in and whispered something. Ethan nodded slowly, then looked back at Robert. Fine. You want acknowledgement? I'll give it to you. We'll hold a joint press conference tomorrow. I'll confirm your role and issue an apology on behalf of the company. But after that, you disappear. No more interviews, no lawsuits. Robert didn't speak for a long time. Then he nodded once. I'll be there. After Ethan left, Lauren turned to him. You believe he'll do it? Robert smiled faintly. He'll try. Whether he means it is another story. The following day, the Langford Convention Center looked different from a week ago. The same spot where Ethan had humiliated him was now filled with reporters, cameras, and microphones. Ethan stepped to the podium first, face pale under the lights. He cleared his throat. A week ago, an unfortunate incident occurred at this very venue. I said words I shouldn't have. Since then, information has come to light regarding Mr. Robert Hayes and his contributions to early Ward Motors designs. The cameras clicked nonstop. Ethan continued, each word stiff. On behalf of Ward Motors, I acknowledge that Mr. Hayes' work played a role in our company's early success. For that, we express regret. Robert stood beside him, silent. When Ethan finished, reporters shouted questions. One voice broke through. Mr. Hayes, do you accept this apology? Robert looked at Ethan, then faced the cameras. I accept the truth. The apology will come when his company corrects every record and prints my name where it should have been all along. The room went quiet. Ethan's jaw tightened. Lauren, standing at the back, watched as the same crowd that once laughed at the old man now listened to every word he spoke. Robert added calmly, I don't need a car or a check. I only needed my name back. And now, everyone knows who built that engine. The press burst into applause, drowning out the last of Ethan's composure. He stepped back from the podium, his voice barely a whisper. This isn't over. Robert turned to him. You're right. It's just beginning. The press conference ended, but the fallout only grew. Within 24 hours, Ward Motors stock dropped 12%. Reporters camped outside the company's headquarters. Ethan's phone didn't stop ringing, and most calls were from lawyers or investors demanding explanations. Inside his office, the blinds were drawn. The TV was muted, showing endless replays of Robert's calm face beside his own awkward apology. Ryan entered quietly with a folder. You should see this, Ryan said, placing it on the desk. Ethan didn't look up. More bad news. Worse. The board's calling an emergency vote tomorrow. They're considering removing you as CEO. Ethan's jaw tightened. They wouldn't dare. Ryan hesitated. Your father already left the country. He's in Zurich. He hasn't returned any calls. Ethan finally looked up. He ran. Ryan nodded slowly. He's leaving you to take the fall. Ethan stared at the wall for a long time. Get the car ready. Where are we going? To Detroit, Ethan said. I'm not done with him yet. The old factory was silent at night. The city had forgotten it, but Robert hadn't. He stood near the empty production floor, his hands in his coat pockets. The giant machines were gone, only the outlines left on the concrete. Lauren was beside him, setting up her camera equipment for a short interview she planned to record. You sure you want to do this here? She asked. Robert looked around. This is where they took everything from me. It's where it should end. She adjusted the lens. You think Ethan will show up? He will. Robert said quietly. Men like him don't know how to walk away from pride. Headlights cut through the broken windows a few minutes later. A black sedan stopped at the gate, and Ethan stepped out alone. His face looked older, tired, but the anger in his eyes was still sharp. He walked straight toward them. "So this is where you hide." Robert turned. Not hiding, remembering. Ethan looked around the room. "I wanted to see it for myself. The place that started all of this." Lauren raised the camera slightly. "You're on record." Ethan didn't care. "Turn it on. I want the world to see how this ends." Robert faced him fully. "You came here for answers? Or to prove something?" Ethan stepped closer. "I came to understand why you couldn't just take the apology and disappear." "Because lies don't die with apologies," Robert said evenly. "They die when truth replaces them." Ethan's voice rose. "You think this truth helps anyone? You destroyed my family's name. You turned me into a headline." Robert's tone stayed calm. "Your family destroyed mine first. The difference is I built engines. They built lies." Lauren lowered the camera slightly, but kept it recording. "You both got what you wanted. The truth is out. Why keep fighting?" Ethan pointed at Robert. "Because he humiliated me in front of the world." Robert shook his head. "No, Ethan. You did that yourself." Ethan's hands clenched. "You don't get to lecture me. You spent your life blaming other people. Maybe that's why they left you behind." Robert's eyes hardened. "You think I care about money or fame? I care about the work. I gave everything I had to that machine, and they threw me away because I wasn't worth a press release." Ethan took another step forward. "You want to talk about being thrown away? My father built this empire, and now it's burning because of you." Robert looked at him steadily. "Your father built it on someone else's back. You're just watching the bill come due." The words hit harder than a shout. Ethan's shoulders tensed. For a long moment, no one spoke. The air between them felt thick, full of years neither man could take back. Lauren broke the silence. "You both lost something. Maybe it's time to stop fighting and start fixing it." Ethan turned to her sharply. "You think this can be fixed?" Robert answered before she could. "It can, but not by pretending." Ethan let out a slow breath. "What do you want from me?" Robert stepped closer. "The truth. All of it. You and I both know your father didn't act alone. The deals, the forged signatures, the silence. It all continued under you." Ethan looked away. "I didn't know until recently." "You knew enough," Robert said. "You had a choice. You kept it buried because it kept you rich." Ethan's voice broke slightly. "You think I asked for any of this? I grew up watching him crush people. I told myself I was different. I'm not sure I ever was." Robert studied him. "Then prove you can be." Ethan looked up. "Ow! Tell the full story. Release every document, every memo, everything your company covered up. Stop the silence." Ethan shook his head. "That would destroy what's left." Robert said quietly, "It would rebuild what's real." The two men stood there, the factory echoing with the hum of the city outside. Lauren kept the camera rolling, knowing this was more than an argument. It was the moment that would decide how history remembered both of them. Finally, Ethan spoke again. "If I do this, they'll come after me. My father, the board, everyone," Robert replied. "Then for the first time, you'll understand what it means to lose something worth keeping." Ethan exhaled slowly, staring at the cracked floor. "You're not the man I thought you were," Robert said. "That's because you were too busy looking down to see clearly." Ethan looked up, eyes tired. "You really believe this changes anything?" Robert nodded once. "It changes me, and maybe that's enough." Ethan turned toward the door. "You'll get what you want. I'll release the files tomorrow. But when this is over, don't expect me to stand next to you again." Robert's tone stayed even. "I don't need you to stand next to me. I just need you to stop standing in the way." Ethan stopped for a second at the door, as if wanting to say something more, then walked out into the night. Lauren lowered the camera. "Do you believe him?" Robert sighed. "I believe he's finally scared of the right thing." She packed up the equipment. "What happens when he releases it?" Robert looked around the empty factory one last time. "Then I can stop coming back here." Lauren closed the camera bag and followed him toward the exit. As they stepped outside, the wind carried the sound of distant engines from the freeway. Robert paused, listening for a moment, then walked toward the street without looking back. 2 days later, the files went public. Ethan Ward's statement appeared on every major news site at once. He didn't try to hide behind legal terms or half-truths. The Post read simply, "For decades, Ward Motors profited from designs created by Robert Hayes without acknowledgement or credit. The documents released today confirm his authorship." This statement is not a defense. It is an admission. The fallout was instant. Television panels debated the scandal nonstop. Former employees spoke to reporters. Investors called it corporate theft. A class action lawsuit formed within 24 hours. Ward Motors' stock continued to fall, and Martin Ward's name vanished from the company website overnight. Inside the same headquarters that once hosted celebrations, silence ruled. Desks were empty, offices locked. Ethan sat alone in the boardroom. The lights dimmed, the city glowing through the windows. The large Ward Motors logo on the far wall now looked like a warning instead of a brand. Ryan entered quietly, holding a folder. "They accepted your resignation." Ethan nodded slowly. "I expected that. They're also launching a criminal review," Ryan continued. "They're saying you covered up your father's actions after inheriting the company." Ethan looked at him. "And you?" Ryan hesitated. "I'm leaving too. It's over." Ethan exhaled. "Yeah, it is." Ryan stood at the door for a second longer. "For what it's worth, you did the right thing in the end. People might not say it now, but they'll remember." Ethan gave a short nod. "Thanks, Ryan." When the door closed, he leaned back in his chair. His reflection in the window looked like a stranger, a man stripped of every illusion of power. He stayed like that for almost an hour, listening to the hum of the air conditioning and the faint sound of traffic below. Across town, Lauren Roberts sat in a small cafe. The news played on the TV above the counter. The anchor's voice filled the room. After years of silence, Robert Hayes has finally received formal recognition for his contribution to Ward Motors' early engine development. The company confirmed all documents as authentic. People in the cafe turned to look at Robert. Some nodded, some smiled. He didn't look back. He just stirred his coffee slowly. Lauren watched him. "You got what you wanted." He shook his head. "I got what should have been there all along." "That's not the same." She leaned forward. "Do you regret it?" "No," he said quietly. "But it doesn't feel like victory either. You spend half your life fighting to be heard, and when they finally listen, you realize the noise doesn't fix anything." Lauren looked down. "It changed something. Maybe not enough, but it's a start." He smiled faintly. "Maybe that's all we ever get. A start." A man approached their table. "Excuse me, sir. I just wanted to say thank you. My father worked at that plant too. They never gave him credit either." Robert nodded. "He deserved better." "So did you," the man said before walking away. When he was gone, Lauren looked at Robert again. Ethan reached out. Robert's hand froze around his cup. "What did he say?" "He wants to meet." "Alone?" Robert sighed. "He's not done yet." "He said he doesn't want to fight," Lauren added. "He said he just wants to talk." Robert looked out the window for a moment, then stood. "Where?" "The plant," she said. "Tonight." When Robert arrived, the factory was dark again, except for one small light near the old assembly line. Ethan was there, wearing a simple jacket instead of a suit. He looked exhausted but calmer than before. "You came," Ethan said quietly. Robert nodded. "You asked." For a moment, neither spoke. The silence was heavy but not hostile. Ethan finally said, "I did what you asked. I released everything." "I know," Robert replied. Ethan looked around the empty hall. "I thought it would fix something inside me." "It didn't." Robert said, "It never does. But it's the right thing." Ethan gave a small, humorless laugh. "You know what the right thing cost me? My company, my father, everything I thought I was." Robert looked at him steadily. "Then maybe it bought you something else. A chance to start over as who you really are." Ethan's voice cracked slightly. "You think that's possible?" "It always is," Robert said. "But not if you keep looking backward." Ethan exhaled. "I never understood until now. You weren't angry because they took your money. You were angry because they took your name." Robert nodded. "When you lose your name, you lose your proof that you existed. Getting it back isn't revenge. It's survival." Ethan looked down at the floor. "I'm sorry." Robert studied him. "I believe you." They stood there in silence. The hum of the city outside seeped faintly through the walls. Ethan finally asked, "What are you going to do now?" "I'm going home," Robert said. Maybe build something smaller this time. Something that's mine. Ethan gave a faint smile. If you ever build again, I'd like to see it. Robert looked at him. Then stop hiding and start learning. Come by when you're ready to build something real. Ethan nodded. Maybe I will. They shook hands. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, simple, the way truth often ends. Not with applause, but understanding. When Ethan walked out, Robert stayed a moment longer, looking at the spot where his machines once stood. He touched the cold railing, then turned toward the exit. Lauren waited outside with her car. When he got in, she asked, "How did it go?" He answered, "Better than it began." She looked at him for a moment, then started the engine. "You think he'll change?" Robert stared out the window as the factory faded behind them. "He already has. The rest is up to time." 6 months later, the Detroit Auto Expo opened its doors to the public. The convention hall was packed with reporters, engineers, and car enthusiasts. In the center stood a new exhibit, a restored version of the early SF engine. The plaque beneath it read, "Original design, Robert Hayes, Chief Mechanic, 1992. Robert stood near the display in a dark gray jacket. He had trimmed his beard and looked healthier than before. Lauren was beside him, holding a small folder of press notes. Reporters surrounded them, asking questions, recording every word. "Mr. Hayes," one of them said, "what does it feel to finally see your name where it belongs?" Robert smiled faintly. "It feels right. Not perfect, but right." Another reporter asked, "Do you forgive Ward Motors?" He paused. Forgiveness isn't about companies. It's about people. The people who made the choices have to live with them, just like I did. Lauren watched as the cameras flashed. For the first time since she had met him, he didn't look burdened. He looked finished, like someone who had finally stopped fighting ghosts. When the questions ended, the event host stepped forward. "We'd like to invite Mr. Hayes to the stage for a brief acknowledgement from the Automotive Engineering Association." Robert walked up to the podium. The applause was steady but respectful, not dramatic. He looked out at the crowd. Faces of strangers, some young, some old, a few who might have once worked under him decades ago. "I'm not here to talk about the past anymore," he began. "What happened to me isn't unique. It happens every day. People build things, and someone else takes the credit. I'm here to say that if you create something, protect it. If you see someone being erased, speak up. The world doesn't change by silence." He looked over at Lauren and nodded slightly. "That's all I wanted to say." The applause grew louder, echoing through the hall. After the ceremony, they walked outside. The sun was bright, the sky finally clear after a long Detroit winter. Lauren handed him a small envelope. "They asked if you consult for the next restoration project." Robert shook his head. "I think I've done enough building for one lifetime." "So what now?" she asked. He smiled. "Maybe I'll teach. Show the next ones how to build something without losing themselves in the process." Lauren nodded. "That sounds like you." Before they could say more, a familiar voice called from behind. "You're not easy to find." They turned. Ethan Ward stood near the parking lot, hands in his pockets. He looked different. No suit, no entourage, just a plain shirt and jeans. His expression was calm, almost humble. Robert faced him. "Didn't expect to see you here." Ethan walked closer. "I didn't expect to come, but I saw the announcement this morning. Thought I owed you a handshake." Robert extended his hand. "Then let's not waste time." They shook hands, firm, simple. Ethan looked at the display through the glass doors. "They finally fixed it." Robert nodded. "They did." Ethan took a breath. "After I left Ward Motors, I started working at a smaller firm in Chicago. No boardrooms, no cameras, just engines and people who care about making them better." "That's good," Robert said. "Start over the right way." "I'm trying," Ethan replied. "For what it's worth, I meant what I said that night. I'm sorry for what we did." Robert studied him for a moment. "You already proved it when you told the truth." Ethan smiled slightly. "Truth didn't save me." "No," Robert said, "but it saved you from becoming someone worse." For a few seconds, neither spoke. The noise of the crowd inside filled the silence between them. Lauren stepped back, giving them space. Ethan said quietly, "I read your interview last month. You said you don't believe in revenge. I think I finally understand that." Robert nodded. "Revenge is short. Dignity lasts. Ethan looked down, then back at him. If you ever need anything, call me. No cameras, no headlines. Just work. Robert gave a small nod. I'll remember that. Ethan turned to leave. Before he walked away, he stopped and said, My father passed last week. Heart attack. He never called. But before he died, he told his lawyer to sign the order restoring your name on every patent. He said it was the only thing he could still fix. Robert didn't respond right away. That's something. Ethan nodded. Yeah, it is. He walked off quietly. No reporters followed him this time. Lauren looked at Robert. You okay? He exhaled. Better than I've been in years. They stood there for a while, watching people come and go. The new generation of engineers filed into the hall, carrying notebooks, pointing at designs, arguing about details, just like Robert once had. Lauren said, You know, that plaque will stay there long after all of us are gone. Robert smiled. Good. Maybe some kid will read it and remember that every name on a machine means someone's life behind it. She glanced at him. Do you think you'll ever build again? He thought for a moment. Maybe one last time. But not for money, not for a company. For myself. Lauren smiled. When you do, I'll be there. Robert nodded. I know. They started walking toward the exit, the sound of applause still faint behind them. The sun reflected off the cars outside, rows of engines that existed because someone, somewhere, refused to be forgotten. As they reached the parking lot, Lauren looked at him. Feels like an ending. Robert shook his head. No, just balance. Things finally found their place. He opened the passenger door for her, then looked back one last time at the glass building and the plaque inside. For the first time in decades, his name wasn't missing. It was standing there in plain sight, engraved where it should have been all along. He got into the car, closed the door, and said quietly, Let's go home. Lauren started the engine. The car pulled away from the curb, the city rolling past in sunlight. This time, the sound of the engine didn't carry anger or regret. It was steady, clean, alive, just like the man who built it.